John never thought his life would turn into this kind of nightmare, a slow, burning descent into betrayal and heartbreak. He was 32, a Navy vet working long hours at a San Diego shipyard, had grown up in a house ruled by his dad, a Marine, with a stare that could stop a man cold, and a belief that women were only good for one thing. John's mom once thought about leaving when he and his two brothers were kids, but his dad shut it down hard. Leave, and I will take care of you, and anyone who tries, I will do the time, even if they lock me up for good. She stayed, and they were together 36 years. So John fell in love with Lynn, a 27-year-old second-generation Vietnamese American from Little Saigon in Orange County. She had long black hair, almond eyes, and a smile that could make a man weak in the knees. They met at a Navy ball, John in his dress, blues Lynn in a tight dress that turned heads. Their connection was instant, and their nights were electric, like something out of a sailor's wildest dreams. She moved into his off-base apartment fast, and both families gave their okay. His were just happy he had found someone. Her strict Buddhists were a bit hesitant, but agreed. At first it was perfect. Lynn would cook pho with broth that simmered all day, or make spring rolls so crisp they would snap when you bit into them. The house was spotless, and their bond was intense, a fire that burned bright. They started talking about kids early, even before they were married. Lynn got pregnant, twins boys. John was over the moon, already picturing himself teaching them to surf or telling them stories about his time in the Navy. But at 8 months, everything fell apart. Lynn got sick, ended up in the hospital, and the twins were stillborn. John blacked out in the doctor's office, waking up with gray streaks in his hair. They fought through the grief together, tears therapy, late nights holding each other, but the pain left deep scars. A year later, while they were still together, John's dad passed away, lung cancer, that hit fast and hard. Lynn was his rock, keeping him steady when he could barely stand. They decided to get married at the courthouse, a quiet ceremony with just the two of them. But then came the first red flag. Lynn insisted on a prenup. John brushed it off. Love makes you blind, right? They settled into his condo, a gift from his mom after his dad's death. 2 months after the wedding, Lynn was pregnant again, this time with a girl. John was thrilled, dreaming of a little princess to spoil. But at 5 months, Lynn changed. Out of nowhere, she packed a bag and said she was moving back to her parents' place in Orange County, claiming she needed their support. She gave him an ultimatum: follow her or walk away. Stunned, John sold his condo to buy a bigger place for their growing family, but the deal dragged on. They ended up at her folks' house, and the dynamic shifted hard. John was not the man of the house anymore, her dad was, and he made sure John knew it. He gritted his teeth and played along, trying to keep the peace. Their daughter arrived early, a tiny, fragile thing who barely clung to life. John poured every penny he had into saving her $2,000 in 3 months on ICU bills, specialists, anything to keep her breathing. Lynn's family turned cold, offering no help, but demanding he sign over half the new house and a third for the kid before they would even consider moving out. They would not chip in a dime, but expected him to foot every bill. He refused, and the fights started, each one uglier than the last. 6 months later, the baby was finally stable, a little fighter who had made it through the worst. John, a devout Catholic, wanted her baptized. Lynn's family, deeply Buddhist, was dead set against it. Baptism clashed with their beliefs, and they saw it as a betrayal of their traditions. He went ahead anyway, doing it quietly and asking Lynn to keep it from her parents. She agreed, but the second they got home, she spilled everything. That night, the house erupted. Her parents screamed about disrespect, accusing John of spitting on their values. He stood his ground, voice steady. She is my daughter, my faith, you do not get a say. The rift grew deeper, and it did not help that they had never even given him a key to their house. after he had handed Lynn his own set on day one. John was working himself to the bone at the shipyard often until 8 at night saving for a house to get them out of there. Meanwhile, Lynn was glued to her phone, barely lifting a finger around the house. He caught her on dating apps one night, confronted her, and she pouted, deleted them, only to get a new phone from her brother the next week. John was not dumb. He installed spyware and saw her texting some guy named Mike from Texas calling John a deadbeat who never loved her. He laughed it off. At first, Mike was 2,000 miles away. What could he do? But then Mike sent her a tablet, and their messages disappeared. John's gut twisted. He knew something was brewing. Then came the accident. A drunk driver, T, boned his truck, leaving him bruised but alive. It shook him to his core. He realized his daughter could have been left without a father. He took out life insurance, $2 million on himself, $1 million on Lynn with his daughter, and Mom as beneficiaries. He told Len the payout was hers, letting her believe the lie. Their connection was ice cold by then. Her family openly despised him, and Lynn always took their side. He was only staying over 2 or 3 nights a week to see his kid, but the marriage was on life support. He knew he had to get her out of that house to save it, but she would not budge without property in her name. That is when things got sinister. Lynn started cooking just for him big, spicy Vietnamese dishes heavy with fish sauce and chili. Her family watched him eat, their eyes sharp, almost expectant. A month and he was vomiting, dizzy, barely able to stand. The doctor called it food poisoning, told him to rest, but it kept happening worse each time. One day he collapsed at work right in the middle of the shipyard. He woke up in the ICU, liver failure, toxins in his system from something he had eaten. He was on the edge, scribbling a will, thinking he would never see his daughter again. His mom nursed him back, and somehow he pulled through. Lynn did not visit, once claimed she could not leave the baby. While he was fighting for his life, she filed for child support behind his back. California's legal system let her get a default judgment when he did not respond to a lost summons. By the time he was out, his wages were already being garnished. On his birthday, she handed him divorce papers. He was numb, asked for mediation, but 6 months later it was over. California splits assets 50-50, but most of his stuff was pre-marriage or gifts, so he kept it. She got primary custody, and he was stuck with supervised visits, plus child support and back pay for the months he was sick. The custody hearing was a gut punch. Lynn told the judge John was a gun-crazed lunatic who had threatened to kill her and their daughter. He was a vet, sure, with legal hunting rifles and handguns all locked up tight in a safe. But she spun it into a horror story. Cops raided his mom's place, SWAT cuffs, the whole deal. They pinned him to the wall, reading her accusations out loud. He explained they were divorced, she did not live there. Cops uncuffed him, even offered tea. But the social workers at the hearing did not care. They labeled him a threat, and he got supervised visits only at Lynn's place on her terms. She did not stop there. She sued for half his guns, his truck, even his VA benefits, $15,000 in total. His lawyer proved most of it was his before the marriage, and the judge cut it down to $1,000. Lynn was furious, froze his bank accounts, slapped liens on his truck and condo. He was under the state's boot until he paid it all off. John cut everyone off, Lynn, her family, even his brothers, who took her side. He was a wreck, walking with a cane for a year, but he rebuilt himself, gym therapy, no booze. He ignored her texts, deleted her begging messages without reading them. After a year, he was standing tall again. That is when she came back. First it was guilt trips, you abandoned your daughter, never bought her a thing, even though he had been paying child support, without fail. Then she switched gears, pleading, we love you, admit you were wrong, apologize, we can be a family again. John laughed in her face, told her to get lost. She doubled down, working on his mom and brothers convincing them he was too harsh, too cold. John's free now, but he's cornered. His ex won't let up, his family's divided, and his daughter's caught in the crossfire. He's got 3 questions, and he's looking for answers. How does he stop her from messing with his family? How can he see his daughter without getting burned? Should he hit back at Lean? Or just walk away for good? What would you do? This vet's been through hell. Share your thoughts.